back to the top 100 comedy podcasts in the world. That's not true, but you can just say that. I figured this out, Trey. You can just say whatever. Like, you know, you know how a bakery will be like, it'll say on the door, like, you know, best
world's
bakery.
best coffee.
Yeah, exactly. How many world's best coffees have you had? You know, you can just say stuff. No one's checking, it turns out. So.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
What's up, dude? Thanks for coming.
Brother, man, this is so surreal. I feel like we just met like a month ago.
We got it, yeah, man. It's interesting. Meeting you was interesting too. It's like I saw that, you know, your podcast, you know, clips of your podcast, and I reached out to you to either be on it or have you on here, and then we ended up speaking, and yeah, just kind of hitting it off, and it's rare to. I mean, yeah. What's your deal? What is your deal? Like it's rare to meet people who are like trying to walk the walk and talk the talk. You know, you meet a lot of people talking the talk. You know, but it's like getting to interact with you. The little bit that I have, it does seem like you're walking the walk, and it's hard to even explain what that is. I know who you are and where you are. I am a little curious how you got when you got weird, or have you like always been weird, or like did something happen? You know, because a lot of times it's through something that either we're broken through or broken down and come back up. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, what made you so fucking weird?
I think I've always innately been weird. I think that I was just afraid to express that. I think that I've always had this program in me to follow and to want to be liked and to really essentially follow the crowd and be and wear all the things that people agreed were popular or cool, and then to gain friends and to gain confidence, and always, you know, I'll rely on the external to give me that happiness, but I didn't know what I was doing unconsciously, if that makes sense. And then I think it's just the path of evolution. I think you slowly wake up to things and realizations, and you start realizing how this reality isn't really what you think it is, and then boom, like you start remembering things. Like you start remembering aspects of self that are more true than anything that's ever been told to you.
Remembering too is such an important word there, huh? It's not, because it's like people will think it's learning something, you know, when you're like evolving or learning, you know, getting, you know, healing and shit, but it's a lot of like remembering what's true in your core. And I like that. So it's like, that's a really good answer. Like, you know, you've always been innately weird, but just didn't feel comfortable expressing that. I think that's like super true, because everyone's fucking weird, you know? The only reason we fit in is to fit in, you know? And I think that that's super normal as far as like unconsciously trying to fit in and be liked. People talk about people pleasing and stuff, but that's in everyone, right? It's evolutionarily, we want to be in the tribe, or else we're going to starve and die, you know? So the ego, it does feel like death, you know? It doesn't feel like, oh, they're not going to like me. It feels like I might die. You know? The ego and the nervous system are like, no, this is real. This is a real threat, you know? So, yeah, but it's impressive. I saw that, you know, your podcast is called Your Superior Self, and it's about human evolution, you know, as far as like consciousness expansion. And I mean, how would you word it? It's like exploring the depths of
exploring the weird, dude. Like you talk about being weird. It's like, okay. Yeah, I mean, it is exploring the depths of our consciousness. It is actually having conversations with, I'm like so used to being in my own studio, like looking at the cameras and, and doing the interviewing, not being the interviewee. So I'm like, a part of me wants to ask you a question, but it's like, I got to remember
and feel free to back and forth, you know.
It's having conversations with the outliers, the psychic mediums, the near-death experiencers, the philosophers, the psychologists that don't go along with mainstream psychology and science, the people that I feel like have the keys to knowledge, the Gnosis. Like they're, you know, I say Gnosis like for people that don't understand, like that is what the Gnostics interpret as the method of understanding the larger consciousness system or reality. Is through Gnosis. It's through the remembering. It's through piercing the veil and receiving wisdom. And I just feel like there's just much more that we don't know.
Yeah, that's what I realized too. When you start to scratch into the world, it's a whole world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the weird is an entire world that some people never tap into. but it's all right here, you know? I mean, you've had some really big guests too, you know what I mean? You've had
I had Aubrey Marcus came on,
oh,
Bruce
did he? I didn't even
Lipton.
know that.
Yeah, it was a really long time ago.
I've seen Thomas Campbell on there. I'm like,
Thomas
he's
Campbell.
yeah, people that have been on Rogan and shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's impressive, man.
Yeah, he's Tom Campbell. Thomas Campbell wrote the book on Theory of Everything, which is based upon his toe. My big toe. It's like a big toe on there. It's like, I don't know if I want to read that, but like, he's the one that got into out of body experiences with Robert Monroe back in the day, and helped like bring the technology of binaural beats and hemisync into the Monroe Institute and help people get into non-ordinary states of consciousness and explore different dimensions. And upon 30, 40 years of exploration, he's written this theory of everything, essentially stating that we're in a virtual reality.
Yep.
You know?
And for someone who believes we're in a simulation, hearing him on Rogan, you know, do the few hours, because I heard about him on Rogan, right, before I knew you even interviewed him, and I'm like, I was digging it. I'm like, this is impressive, because you can tell, like you said, it's a lifetime worth of work. This guy isn't just shooting from the hip, you know? It's not like everything he says is 100% true or not. It's not about that. It's like, what he's saying is it's backed by foundational research.
And he's a physicist.
Right.
So he
He's
has
like
the credentials.
yeah.
Like the reason why he doesn't have his PhD is because he basically was like, fuck you guys. I'm not going to like keep following this program.
Yeah.
And you guys are making me you're making me jump through these hoops, and I'm not going to, I'm done. Right. So he left. Like he was really close to getting his PhD in physics or whatever, right? Like, I don't know exactly what, I think nuclear physics or whatever, NASA, like whatever, something like that, right? Like trying to get us out of here, right? And like what his message really resonated with me, because he ultimately talks about love, like lowering entropy of the system.
Right.
Like, so just to give like an overview or basic foundation of his work is like, we are aspects of the larger consciousness system that come into this reality, and our number one job is to evolve into, I guess, or help evolve the actual overall system, and to do that is through what he calls lowering entropy, and entropy is chaos. So, and how do we lower entropy? It's through our own self-evolution, through choice, and through love. And as we do that collectively, we start to individually, as consciousness, evolve ourselves, and we are leveling up. We are maturing or hitting these different stages of maturation, which eventually we will be similar to the larger consciousness system, where we can probably create different worlds and things of that nature.
And if you look at the zoom out on a big enough timeline, that makes sense, because like you said, there's growth there, right? We're a lot more spiritually mature and consciously aware than we were in 1750 probably.
Oh, 100%.
So if you keep that going on a long enough timeline, you know, there was a skeptic in me. There's always a skeptic in me, as you know. I think it's healthy to have some skepticism, but mine definitely hinders me in some ways. But there's a bit of a skeptic in me. There's this duality when I think about his theory, specifically about how the answer is love, right? It's one of those things that in the skeptic parts of me say that's too good to be true. You know, like how convenient that the thing that feels the best that we've decided morally, humans, the thing that we morally think is the best is the actual code to the universe. It's like, so there's a skeptic in me that's like, you know, a lot of people conflate what they think to be true and what they want to be true. Do you know what I mean? About afterlife or about, you know, so it's like, but at the end of the day, I have more parts of me, Trey, that know that to be true. You know what I'm saying? And I've been so rigorous and rigid and cunty in my, like, you know, needing scientific proof, you know, because I think it's a good mind to have. But at the same time, it's like I trust my intuition more. I'm trying to trust that more. It's like I know that when I dissect and I tap into what's in there, it is like this loving awareness. I believe that. I mean, I've heard that said. It's not like I came to that myself, you know. But I you know, it's interesting. Like if the entire universe is set up by this thing that happens to be our moral standard, you know, as well. Because it's like, even the idea of morals and karma and stuff, it's like, that would be convenient. that the universal laws are based on the things that make us feel good in this form, you know. So I think there's like a healthy set of skepticism there, but I also just know how love feels. And like, what's the opposite of love? Fear?
I think so. That's what he says. Anyway.
That sounds right. I mean, I've heard like, you know, and I don't necessarily agree this to be true to the letter, but everything you do is either love or fear. Now, I don't feel like that's actually true. I mean, you can really find some minute examples, but at the end of the day, it's a really good thought. You know, is this fear, contraction, or is this love, which is like open expansion?
Yeah.
You know, and just like so, yeah. When I talked to you, it was incredible talking to you, and you were telling me that you're well. What's your spiel? Yeah, you're saying that like you talked about like a men's group, and like the idea of a men's group, right, is not something I would search out. It's not. I think that they're probably great, right? It's like in my head that sounds good. A lot of times they're religious or based on recovery. Okay, and I am an addict.
Sure.
So I've been to the recovery ones, and I've been to the religious ones, right? And I've always kind of said I wish there was a group for people who just want to be better and didn't have to shoot dope, or don't have to love Jesus or whatever the thing is. So I think there's just something super beautiful about a men's group. And again, I'm going to categorize it unknowingly. But in my head, it's like a men's group of men supporting each other, loving one another, and like without having to tie it to a religion. And it's kind of general. It's basic. It's like, what does that look like? It could be different every week or every month or whenever you guys are meeting. But the idea of guys looking out for each other and helping each other, it's like there's a part of me that's like, that's corny. Right? Because that's my limiting, everything's gay. You know what I mean? Everything. It's like growing up around my buddies. This is how, in my generation, it was like everything's, any true expression of yourself, you know what I mean? It's like, don't do that. That's just corny. It's gay. So I've slowly been breaking out of that, and I know I need work there, you know? So it's interesting that like the universe put each other in our paths. But did you start the podcast prior to the group work and stuff like that? Like which one came first in your progression? I know you have a family and stuff like that. You're like a real person. So it's like, did the podcast come out of the men's group, or did men's groups work and stuff come from the podcast, or were you journaling, or did you meditate? How did you get into the realm of what, like growth?
Sure. Yeah. No. So the podcast came before anything. That came from a place of wanting to create, but I didn't know what that was. It started out I'm very blue collar. I come from the Eastern Shore.
Eastern Shore
Eastern
boy.
Shore,
Okay.
yeah, buddy. Lower, slower, or however, slower, lower, whatever that is. Delaware. But I know how to work hard, like, and through my evolution, the programs started coming up, and I started realizing that they were programs. And the one thing that I love is like about this weirdness, spirituality, is that the world isn't what you think it is, and the mind has a lot to play with that. The mind can change form. The mind can create realities. And so coming up through the blue collar lens, like we busted our asses all the time. Like I remember working, like I didn't like working on the farm. My grandfather had a farm. He was a railroader.
Damn.
He was John Wayne, you know, like
literally,
literally. Like I remember it was so boring as shit, like going to work with him, because like conversation was minimal. Like you needed to be working. Like we were not having fun.
You're not catching up.
No, we're not talking about our emotions.
They're not talking at all. Much less emotion.
If you're talking, you're not working, right? So the idea to me that I can go into my imagination, which I've always loved being in, but I was always told not to be there. I had to be in this reality.
Grounded in this.
I had to be in the physicality. I had to be in the material world. That I can go in there and I can change variables and have and experience different experiences. And I've done this many a times. I've gone into my mind and my visualizations and created spaces. I just had the Awakened Leader Summit, and I've created that through visualization. Like when I remember standing in the middle of the opening ceremony, and I have envisioned that for months, and it went down exactly the way that I thought it would. And like the people, I couldn't visualize each person and identify them.
Right.
But there were people in the room, and in the way that I felt it, the way that I communicated, the way that I spoke, the words that I was speaking were basically word for word in that visualization. And now here I am in this moment, and I've collapsed it into this timeline. Like the probabilities, they are what do they call it? Superpositioned.
Yeah, like quantum theory.
Yeah, quantum theory,
yeah.
quantum.
It both is and isn't.
Yeah. So I was able to take my imagination and my consciousness into the quantum, if you want to call it that, and be able to create something.
Because you envisioned it ahead of time in here, right? Mm-hmm. So that's different than being on the farm, right? And you can't live in your imagination growing up because it's like there's shit to do, right? You can't even afford it. Did you read books and stuff growing up? Did you get to
I mean,
escape in that?
nothing spiritual. I mean, my mom really forced us to go to Sunday school. We were Methodist, and I'm having deja vu right now as we're speaking. So there's some. We've been here before.
I was gonna say, what do you think about that? Deja vu's fucking weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I think it's. I was listening to Philip K. Dick on the way here. The guy he's an author, and he talks about simulation theory and that we live in a virtual reality. He's like, deja vu is essentially changes in the system. There's a variable that's changed in your path, and now you're readjusting. So it's almost like, and a buddy of mine, Mansoor, texted me this morning. He's like, when you make decisions, and he was comparing and making a metaphor to a wide receiver route. Like when you plant your foot into the route, there's a subtle change that takes place, like a different route. You know what I mean? A different line that you're taking. So like deja vu to me is like, okay, it's a subtle like changing in the timeline. You know, like you've been here before, but all of a sudden now you're going into a new direction. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's always kind of creeped me out. It's like it feels like either, it feels tied into. It feels so bizarre that people don't even like talking about it. We have like those subjects you bring up. People are like feeling someone look at you. Certain things you can't explain with our current science, but there's shit going on.
Yeah. I mean, so to me, like that just. The physicality of this reality, I get it, right? Like you have to move, you have to do things in order for there to be a reaction, because there are laws that are here that you have to follow in order to have an effect. But the idea that you can do different things to get an effect, like that really like it excited me. It was like, well, what else can I change? Like what else can I do?
Yeah.
How can I live my life differently to have a different experience? So if reality is malleable, not that I selfishly want to be like this big spender, like, travel the world and do nothing, but just try to manipulate everything with my mind. But like, how can I have a different experience to where it's more meaningful and more on purpose?
Right. And then even without tapping into like because there's like a spectrum there, right? So it's like some people might not be fully on board with just like manifesting a reality with our minds, right? And it's like, okay, if you're not, you can at least say that like what you're thinking about, it has to like it's what you're thinking about and how you're thinking. You're the author of the book, right? So you realize, hey, I have the pen. If I change the words here, the next chapter could be completely different. So some people feel like they're in the book, but they don't have the pen. I see people like that all the time, where they feel like victims. They're just like life's happening to them, and you can change that and have life happen for you. I mean, so again, if you're not fully on board with the manifestation, the idea, like I'm sure you've heard it, but like if you and I are in a car and we're riding through a city and I'm starving, right? And you are worried about the car breaking down. We ride through the city. You happen to notice on that drive, like the auto mechanic shops. I noticed the Wendy's because we were paying attention to something different. You know what I'm saying? So even just that shows my experience of that town. Looking back, I would remember the food places. You would remember the car places, right? So it just goes to show a small example of like what you're paying attention to can become your reality.
100%. I mean, there's no way to interpret like your subjective experience. Like I have no idea how you experience this world.
Yeah.
I only know how I experience it, right? Which is interesting because like, how do I know, right? Like that you experience the color red the way that I do. So the way that the scientists just think everything is material and that you can have a standard theory for everything, to me is limited because. And the problem is that we come up through that programming. We come up through this conditioning that this rule set, the religion of science, yes, is set. And like, we will never fully understand, I think, the complexity of the universe. But just for a second, like there's another option that we can choose to pick up the pen, to be the director, to be more empowered, self-empowered, to recreate a reality in which we are on purpose with our lives or our life's mission almost, And so that's, to me, that's just so enticing. That's so like empowering.
It's powerful. Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I talked to you, we talked about just, having gone through certain things and being where we're at and being able to articulate the message. Yeah. You had said to me, and it hit, I've told you before since, but you're like, we almost have a responsibility to do it.
Yes.
And I thought that was important because a lot of times I didn't feel like that, right? It's like, but not everyone has the ability to have been through something, the ability to want to learn, and to articulate it. You know, it's almost like you do have a little bit of a responsibility, and the idea of like a mission or like a purpose, you know, it feels important. I mean, so you started the podcast out of your curiosity, and then when did you said the programming came up of like your societal programming?
Yeah. So I started. Well, I will just tell you the full how I got into the weird.
Yeah.
So I was working with a friend. His name was Greg, and he had a daughter. She was 7 years old at the time, and she passed away. I don't know what she had. She had some type of disease or whatever, like precondition to whatever. She
7 years old.
Yeah, 7 years old. I don't know the full story medically what happened. But I was in conversations with him throughout that process, and it was just so surprising to me. Like, they were in the hospital, and they felt like they were going to be released very soon, and that she was good to go. And then next day, it just started deteriorating, and it got to the point where her brain swelled up, and she didn't make it much longer after that. And so, like, I was with him through the entire process, like just speaking to him and guiding him and just having conversation. And
what a rare experience that is.
I mean, because my wife is pregnant at the same time with our daughter, who's going to be 7 this year. And so there was some guilt there too, right? Because we're getting ready to have a baby, and he's going through this with his baby. She was the youngest of his 3 kids. And so I go to the funeral, and there, you know, of course, it's just like this small casket, and
Jesus Christ.
It's just probably the hardest thing that I've ever done. And just going back into my mind, into that space, it's just kind of like, wow, it's so powerful. And so the funeral happens, and then him and I are still having conversations, and I could see a change in him, like a change that I wouldn't recognize in myself. Like, I would be in a ditch somewhere. Like, I wouldn't be able to function properly. And I just come out and say it. I asked him, said, like, Greg, man, like, you seem like you're handling this a little bit better than I would. Like, what are you doing? And
good for you for asking.
Yeah. You know? Well, I mean, I was curious.
Yeah.
And he was seeing a psychic medium. Like, he was going to these dinners where, I guess, the psychic medium where he lives goes and does like public readings. And she started bringing forth evidence to them that his daughter Addison was still on the other, you know, still alive in a different form of energy, right? Like evidence, like things that no one else would know. And so he was doing this a couple of times. I don't know if it was like once a month or what his cadence was, but he was relaying that information to me. And at that point, I was like, "What are you talking about, dude? Like, you're seeing a psychic medium? Like,
right?
I don't know if
you
I
wouldn't
can
expect
do that."
Yeah.
Until it was probably, I'm trying to remember when she passed away. I think it was like October. Yeah, I think it was in October or November. But that year, when the Kansas City Chiefs went to the Super Bowl with Andy Reid for the first time, that's when it changed. And I know people are like wondering, like, what the hell does the Chiefs got to do with this, right? But this is why. So we're sitting there having a conversation, and he's telling me about his latest reading and the evidence that she brought forth. And she said to him, I don't know if you're a betting man, but if you are, my guides are telling me that Andy Reid's team is going to win by 11. And he tells me this information, and I'm like, Greg, what the hell are you talking about? Like,
sure.
First off, who are these guys, and who wins a Super Bowl by 11 points? Really? I mean, think about the number there. Like, it's it's an odd number. It's 11 points. It's
very
like
specific.
A couple of field goals and a safety, right? Sure shit. If you don't believe me, go back and check the scores. I can't remember who they're playing, but the first time Andy Reid went to the Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs, they win the Super Bowl by 11. I come out of there like mouth open, like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what kind of black magic is this shit, right? And so I go back to Greg, and he's like, man, we could have been millionaires. I was like, dude, I wasn't thinking like that, but here's my perspective. If we were going to bet on this, we wouldn't, like, the Super Bowl score wouldn't have never been that, and the Chiefs would have never won. I was like, this happened because this was a sign.
Right. This is bigger than hitting
This is bigger than the lottery.
Right. You guys did hit really big. Yeah, that's huge.
This is to show us that people can tap into something that we have no idea what they're tapping into or how they're receiving information, but it's happening.
Right.
So I wanted to know more about this. And then I found out about near-death experiences.
The NDE.
The NDEs. Like, that shit is wild. You think, like this has, like, the first NDE that I heard, like, I can just remember just trying to understand conceptually, how is this possible? Like, how can somebody be flatlined on the hospital bed and leave their body and see all their relatives, and visit and hear things,
right? And
then experience another realm of, like, angels and spirits and Jesus and Buddha and all the things, and then come back and be able to tell the doctor, hey, your shoe was untied while you're operating on my heart. Like, you know what I mean? He's like, how did you know that? Like, so I just think I wanted to know more about that. And that's when I went into Raymond Moody's work, Dr. Raymond Moody, who basically wrote, he wrote, like, so many books on near death. He basically popularized it, like the NDE. And he came up with, like, 8 standard experiences that over thousands and thousands of NDEers have when they go through that process.
So he, like, categorized them.
Yeah, he made it official. Like, he has legitimate, initials at the end of his name. He's worked in many different psychological wards. I mean, he's done all the things to be, like,
he's got the credentials. Yeah,
he has the credentials, and making it legit. And I mean, University of Virginia actually has a department dedicated to these types of studies. I think it's like the University of Virginia Department of Perceptual Studies, and they look at after past lives in children. Like
those things are weird too. Man. The kids talking about these. So
I mean, there's so much weirdness out there, if you want to call it that. But it's also proof and evidence that this place is different. Like, this isn't what we think it is.
No, man, and it's like, I've had some really heavy psychedelic experiences for sure that have led me to those same conclusions. Where it's like, we don't know what's going on here. I'm not claiming to, but the idea that we got it figured out is what's really the hubris there, and thinking that we have it figured out.
That's hysterical. Right. I mean, so if you look at all the spiritual philosophies and material and literature, like 80% of it, I would even say probably 90% of it actually says that this place isn't what we think it is. Like, this is not the fundamental reality.
Right.
That there is something outside of this space that is more fundamental than this. Now, if you want to call it a school, a prison, whatever, this isn't it.
Right.
This is a copy of something. And I think our job, my philosophy, I guess my belief is that we are here to evolve.
And get closer to that fundamental reality?
Yeah. I mean, Plato talks about it. I mean, I've studied Plato for a little bit here and there, and Plato's cave is a great metaphor for what I think this reality is. And for those that don't know, he talks about the allegory of the cave, which have prisoners, and behind the prisoners are shackled, and they're in this darkness, and there's handlers behind them that are tending a fire, and they have these, like, wooden, like, sticks with figures, and they create these stories on the wall from the shadow of the fire. And so these prisoners think that is their reality.
Because that's all they've ever known.
That's all they ever know.
Shadows on the wall.
And he talks about how one prisoner gets released. I don't know how this prisoner gets released. I don't know if there's protocols, meditation, all the things. I don't know how psychedelics, I don't know how they get released, but he does. And when he turns around, he sees the fire, and he has, like, this existential shock, right? Like, this, holy shit, this isn't my reality. There's something behind me. And who are those guys with a stick?
Yeah.
It's almost like it could be psychedelic.
Yeah, I mean, it's psychedelic in nature. I mean, and that's a fundamental shift.
Could you imagine?
No.
Like, what if something started talking in here and telling you that this isn't your reality? How would you?
I mean, that's how DMT has been for me.
Yeah.
It's a complete throw you into the fire, not even look at it, you're in the fire. And it's like, oh, not only was I not looking at reality, it's so much more complex than I could even fathom.
Oh my God.
With this brain,
And then the best part is that, like, he somehow gets outside of the cave, like outside into the real world. And he can't, the prisoner, and I say he, I don't know if it's a he, but the prisoner cannot see the truth of reality. Like so let's say if you come out of a dark cave, you're not going to be able to see daylight. I mean, daylight's going to blind you. So you're not going to be able to see objects. So at first he sees himself in the reflection of like water, right? And then he sees the moon, and then he sees the stars, and then at last he sees the sun. So to me, that is the progression of someone's spiritual path. Like you can't see the truth at all, right? But eventually, gradually, as you progress, you start seeing more and more of the light, which he deems the truth, the noble, like that is it. That's the greatest truth. And then when you have this realization, when you can finally see the sun for what it is, and then you realize who you are.
And I was about to say, see yourself for who you are too.
Yeah, so that's the major truth. And then the universal truth. And then once you have this realization, you have a remembrance of where you've come from. And you see that the prisoners are in the same situation that you were, and then you would automatically want to help free them because you know how much misery they're in, So he goes back into the cave, and because he has this truth, he tries to communicate that to the other prisoners. And the prisoners are like, what are you talking about, bro?
You're not making any sense.
Yeah, it makes zero sense. And, we're going to try to kill you. Because you threatened
back in the day.
Yeah, you threatened my reality at this point.
And, sometimes I'll notice when if people that listen to these conversations sometimes will feel threatened because we'll be talking about sunlight out here.
Yeah.
And because they've only ever seen the shadow things, they're just like, I mean, aside from trying to stone us in the street, but they don't want to, it's uncomfortable because you're threatening their reality,
Well, comfortability is death, right? And everybody, we have evolved to be comfortable. We don't want to, I mean, at a young age, I'd rather go watch TV and do fun stuff and play sports than go out on the farm and work, right? That wasn't comfortable for me. So I think we want to be comfortable. We want to have the 9-to-5 jobs. We want to be taken care of. We want all our needs to be met. We want all the things. And anything outside of that threatens us.
Right.
It's hard work. It's resistance. And I just think that in Plato's case, the resistance is what eventually freed that prisoner. Now, I don't know what freed the prisoner. Like a lot of people would say, a lot of academics that I talk to say that it was the higher self. The higher self eventually freed that prisoner from that situation, which I like to believe, but I don't know. It's a metaphor. But Plato also wrote about the noble lie, which is you lie to the masses in order for them to conform. And so there's a paradox there. He talks about the allegory of the cave, but he also talks about noble lies.
Right.
And you see noble lies. And I think the church was built upon like Platonism, essentially. The light and the dark, right? Good and the bad, heaven and hell. And so the noble lie was told in order to control the masses and keep them in check.
Social order,
yes. And keeping them working towards something greater. So I don't know. I mean, I like to think that Plato was this brilliant, enlightened being that is talking about Plato's cave and how it's actually assimilation here. But I don't know if he was fucking with us or not. Like I don't. You never know. And I think if anybody says they know, they don't really know.
No, definitely not. To act like you have an authority on the subject, that's why it's just fun to theorize about it because you just don't know. I mean, it's he put it out there, and it's like, I guess what's interesting about the Platos and the Socrates and the, you name all the philosophical thinkers, when you had said that a lot of the religions and stuff, 80-90% of religions say this isn't the reality, right? Yep. And then also people like Plato saying the same thing, right? People like simulation theorists saying the same thing. People like Tom. It's like I really enjoy when a theory gets like validated by lots of different fields or different things. You know what I mean? I'm reading a book and it touches on something I learned in therapy 3 years ago, and I'm like, oh wow, it all lines up. And so it's like synchronicities like that where there's too much in common with all of the big religions and all of the theories, that there's got to be something more going on, and what it is, I'm not sure. But
well, dude, I mean, we don't even present our real selves to reality.
No,
we all wear masks.
Everyone.
And you touched upon men's work, and I think men's work for me has revealed the mask that I was wearing, that I didn't know that I was wearing. Like right now, like how do you be authentic? Like to tell you that this is one of my first in-person podcasts, and that like I'm trying to present this mask of like I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Right,
like you know what I mean? Like I've had over 500 conversations with spiritual teachers, mystics, scientists, and to say like, you know, I have the #1 spirituality podcast in Baltimore. Like I could say whatever I want. I don't know. Like I don't know any other spiritual podcasts, but maybe I am the one. Maybe I'm the only fucking one. I don't know, right? But there's a mask that I wear. Like to be, and men's work has allowed me to sit down with other men and take the mask off and be seen and be accepted, because there is a wound there. There's like a father wound. My dad, I love my dad. I love my grandfather. I love all the men in my life, but we all wear a mask. Like we all cut ourselves off at the door and we play these roles. That you got to be tough, you know, suck it up, rub salt on it. Like, don't be a pussy, you know, don't do these things. Don't tell another man that you love them.
Right.
You know, like when we first hugged, I told you I was going to hug you for, you know what I mean? Like we're going to hug, dude, you know, and you can feel yourself pull back because of the socialization, the social norms. And, like I didn't realize I was wearing a fucking mask. I didn't know that I present myself in a certain way. I say things because I want to be liked. I don't say the unlikable things because I don't want to go against the grain. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to get into like a hard conversation.
Yeah.
And it's allowed me to sit in this space of uncomfortability and accept for what arises in me. Like I don't know what, you know, sometimes I have emotions. I don't know how to describe them. You know, like I have sadness. I guess it's sadness, depression.
Right.
But we're not taught to identify that.
A lot of times men default to anger.
Yeah, we know what anger is because it's good.
And
you use
acceptable.
It, right?
Right.
Go out on a football field, use that anger, get angry, boy, you know?
Yeah, there's no crying in baseball, all these things. It's like, you know, boys are just people. Like men are just human beings, you know? And so how did men's work find you or you find it?
So Tebow Mannequin, whose husband...
Shout out Tebow.
Yeah, Tebow. Who's the husband of Lola, which
Shout out Lola.
Lola is the founder of Tribe. Shout out to Tribe in Baltimore.
Shout out to Tribe.
And Tribe has been a place of transformation. It's funny because she has this like little like place. I guess she calls it the cave. It's like a dimly lit space that you can go to integrate after you have like a really profound experience there. It's like a school of embodiment. You've been there, right?
Yeah.
So
awesome place.
It's called the Cave. I call it Plato's Cave. But I went there to see Lola and reconnect because we did an episode a couple of years ago, and I knew that she was opening Tribe, and I wanted to go and have a conversation and just see how she's doing. And so we did a couple of things together, like live in-person episodes, and we're just regrowing our connection. And I went to Tribe. It's funny. I went to Tribe the day on my birthday when I turned 41 is the same day my grandfather passed away. And I did a men's breathwork session there. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what the fuck. I didn't know who those guys were, but they came up from like South Carolina. And we did breathwork. And that was like my first experience with breathwork in a men's circle. And then after we had that experience, we kind of shared what we experienced. And I experienced a very profound exchange with my grandfather, like he was there in the room. And it's hard for me not to get emotional about it because like he was John Wayne, and in this vision, like he was much softer and sensitive, and he basically was giving me, you know, personal messages on how I move forward in this life and to go after my dreams and to dream big too. And permission, 100%.
Yeah.
So we're in that circle and we're sharing. And I just saw a profound change in other men that I didn't know was allowed. Like I didn't know that I was allowed to feel the things that I was feeling and be able to communicate them, and then have the support of other men that were there. So that stuck with me. So fast forward a couple months, I get a call. I was at my son's football practice. I get a call from Tebow, and Tebow and I didn't really meet. We knew of each other. but he was like reaching out, and he was like, Trey, I think you'd be a good fit for this retreat we're gonna have, and I think it was November of last year. And I was like, okay, I don't know what it entails, but fuck it, let's do it, right?
Yeah.
So he brought these
and
two,
good for you, for just being open to
open-minded.
it, right? Yeah.
And then we had these two facilitators come in from LA, and dude, the fucking response from the men in that group, the profound experiences that I had there, changed my entire perspective of what it is to be a man.
Was that over a weekend or was it one day?
It's 3 days.
Okay.
It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Nice.
And
that's powerful.
Yeah, and the camaraderie and the brotherhood that was formed, and the trust and the container, like, it's so important. And I don't know why more men don't do it.
Well, I think I'm glad you had said that, you know, you love your dad and your grandfather, because sometimes I think the thought hearing this may be like, oh, you had a fucked up childhood, and that's why you're seeking this. But I won't want to say your argument, but one of your points is like everyone is lacking this connection in this society, right? Men just don't show up for men. They know it's not taught. We don't know that we're allowed to do it. We have the skeptic in us and the societal homophobia, right? Not in a hateful way, but just in when I'm walking down the street with a guy friend of mine and our hands touch, fuck, you know? It shouldn't be that way. I get that, you know? It's like I'm not turned on. He's not. There's nothing sexual about this. Same with a long hug. Neither one of us are thinking it's sexual. Why am I uncomfortable? You know what I mean? I think it's important to look at. Granted, I think there's a line, because you could be like, why don't we naked cuddle and watch movies? It's not sexual. We're just two buddies, you know? It's like sometimes the spiritual thing in my head can get extreme, but I think that there's important work to be done there. And I guess it's just like, it is rare for men to see other men, to really see him, you know, without wearing that less of the mask. There's always like a mask, right? So how much can we remove it? How often? So he invited you to that retreat. You did it, and then are you a part of the men's group, or you just did the retreat?
So I did the retreat, but that was it. We didn't plan on anything past that. So for the past year, we slowly have been creating this space. I mean, so Thibaut Mannequin is the lead architect, and then Corey Bailey as well. Those two have teamed up, and they're creating a powerful, I would say, foundation for men's work in Baltimore. It's called Baltimore Band of Brothers, B3 for short.
B3.
Yeah, B3. And it's a space, a safe container where men can like take the mask off or reveal parts of themselves that they feel comfortable sharing. I mean, to your point, that I don't think the nervous system will allow for a full reveal, you know, just to keeping us safe.
Right.
And we've evolved to like, you know, scan and be in the, you know, we're trying to figure out where the hell we're at, you know, so that we don't get fucking mauled. Right. So it's very hard to create. I mean, it takes a lot of courage and open-mindedness, to your point, to be able to take off the mask, because you have to feel safe in order to do that.
Yeah.
Like, the nervous system has to be regulated. You have to be in this parasympathetic mode. And that's when the healing starts. I didn't realize that either. Like shit was coming up for me that I wasn't like sad, but shit was coming up that made me feel sad. I didn't really have memories associated with it, but it was like the nervous system was purging itself of that trauma.
Without the thought, just the emotion.
Yeah. And I didn't know what that was.
Right.
So they had to hold space for me in that as well. Like, and again, like my dad, his dad, we didn't have the capacity to be fathers. I don't even know if we've ever gotten it right, you know, as fathers, as men. I mean, you think about ancestral trauma, like think about a man that models that, like the true healthy masculine energy. Like, I don't know if we've ever gotten it right. Maybe there's an outlier out there.
Yeah, I'm sure have been people, and it's like maybe there's no correct right. Yeah. Right, there's two binary, is right and wrong.
Yeah.
But as far as like fully stepping in the divine masculine the way that we could, ideally, it's extremely rare. Like you said, outliers at best.
Yeah.
And I want to say that just like it's been really powerful to me and moving, you know, getting to see it. And then when you put together the Awakened Leaders Summit, I wanted to talk about that for a minute. Like, you had this vision in your head, you communicated that vision. Right? With yourself, I'm sure, first, right? And then with your, you know, probably wife and your close people, and then you like communicated it out further, and you put it together, you know, and it was just really impressive. I remember talking to you beforehand, and obviously there's like, you know, there's angst and like, you know, there's a lot going on, and I remember being like, you did it. Like if no one shows up, you did it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can't be attached to, you know, the actual outcome when we, you know, if you put in the effort, you did it. And the outcome was great, turns out. But even if it weren't, you know, you had done it. And it was beautiful to see people there supporting you. I think it says a lot about you as well. It's not just like you don't give off grifter vibes, or you know what I mean? Like, you know, and it's like, while I don't consider myself an entrepreneur, like I do consider myself a leader. You know what I mean? It's just like people that want to lead with love, right? It was like the tagline. And I think that that's just beautiful. Like, cause it's like, I was trying to explain to people what it was, right? And they're like, what the hell is an awakened leader summit? I'm like, just like a room full of people with positive intentions, compassion, and like striving towards an idealistic, you know, better future. It was beautiful. And something that really, really hit me was, and it didn't make me cry during, but after, when I was in therapy. I think I told you about it a bit, but you were up there doing a Q&A with a buddy of yours who's also in B3.
Yep.
Yeah, you and this guy were doing this discussion. His Q? Yeah, you and Q were up there talking, and he has a really powerful story, obviously, and you guys got into a really heavy topic for him, you know, a child death, you know, and he, you know, you asked a tough question, a couple tough questions. I remember you even said, like, I don't want to ask this, but I have to.
I don't want to ask this question.
But that was so authentic, you know. I love the authenticity of that. This wasn't planned. That's on my heart to say. I'm going to ask it. You don't have to answer it, you know. And you had asked him some tough questions about him having, you know, having dealt with the death of his son, the tragic accidental death of his son, you know, at 17 years old. And he started to get emotional, and almost like it was fucking choreographed, you know. You got up from your seat. You were up there with him. It was you two sitting up there. So you get up from your seat and kind of embrace him. And then without like signaling to other people or any cue, a few other people, 3-4 other men, get up from their seats in the, you know, in the crowd and go up and embrace him. And it's like, it'll make me emotional now.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, it's just so beautiful to see. It's like you guys shielded him. You guys, like, I don't know if it was intentional, but the physicality, you know, you guys like covered him and shielded him, and to let him have that emotion, you know. And it was just like, I don't know, that was heavy. That was like the most impactful part of the whole thing for me. It was like all the little workshops and shit were cool, you know, the finding presence, the sacred intimacy, all that stuff was cool. But that real moment, that unscripted, like men showing up for men, you know, and not in like a corny way. It was like, that shit was real. And it's like, I didn't even realize how much it hit me at the time. And then when I was like telling my therapist about it, you know, and I was just like, yeah, and it made me get emotional then and now. But it's like, because it's so rare. And these, you know, these guys aren't like, it's rare to see intimacy that's not connected to sexuality or romance, right? Because in our society, it's so often like intimacy is sexual or romantic. And it's like, I think that there's a huge lack of intimacy for men, you know?
No, I agree. I mean, in that moment, none of that was choreographed.
Right,
like,
of course.
None of that was planned at all. It just, that's how tight we are. We're unapologetically supportive of one another, and there's nothing that I wouldn't do for those guys, you know. And like I said, I believe that that's true for them.
There's
as well.
Reciprocity there, yeah. I mean, that's just powerful. You don't see it a lot, you know. And it's like, yeah, it's impressive. It's impressive what you're doing. It's powerful. I mean, you know, what does your day look like? You work a 9 to 5?
I work at 9 to 5, but then my off hours. So I'm going back to school for psychology. I do that.
Congrats.
Night school. Last semester before I get my undergrad.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
By the way, because people think you just can't do school if you're past like 33 or something. You know?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I go to University of Baltimore. I love that school. It's probably one of the most hidden gems in Maryland.
Really?
Yeah, I love that school.
Interesting.
It's so.
You don't hear that, like you said, hidden gem.
It's a hidden gem for sure.
How long have you been doing it?
So I started at CCBC with my associates in business, transferred to University of Baltimore. I mean, this is a long time, like 2018. So I've been taking a couple courses here and there since 2018.
That's beautiful. So that's what I was curious about, though. Yeah. So but prior to 2018, there was no schooling for a while.
No schooling. Well, I dropped out, and then I started working for the railroad, and then
real man shit.
Real man shit, right? And I grew up on the railroad, and you're talking about hardcore guys, I mean, you walk into one of those rooms and you better be wearing a fucking flannel. And
you better smell like shit.
Yeah, you better smell like
shit.
You better have like some tobacco chew in your lip, and you better be drinking black coffee.
Yeah. Imagine going in there and expressing your love for them.
You go hug somebody, they're going to stab you.
Yeah, for real.
That's my background. That's where I come from. I mean, hard-nosed guys, and trust me, there's a lot of trauma that's associated with that too. I had to cut myself off from my feelings just to survive a conversation. I had to attack you before you attacked me.
Right.
You know, like I had to break you down before you break me down. But I love those guys. I mean, there's guys, there's hardcore guys, lumberjack guys that would do anything for you, but they would never tell you how they feel about it.
For sure.
They would never use their words because we don't know how to use our words. We don't know how to define what it is that we, even love, right? Like, we don't know what the fuck love is. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like, I know the feeling when I'm in it, but I don't know how to describe it.
It's such a hard thing to grasp, which is why it's one of my favorite things. I love those things that are ineffable. And getting to try to, because language is a reducing valve at the end of the day. There's raw experience and there's language that can never quite get to this. Yeah. You know, and it's helpful to discuss these concepts and put them back and forth, but there's no way to get to the actual thing. Yeah. You know?
Well, I think love is a frequency, to your point. I don't know if it, you know, we think it's a word and actions, but I think it's a frequency. And I think it's like when you're in it, you know it.
Yeah. I also kind of feel like, you know, I don't know that it can be created, right? It feels like we're conduits for it. Like when I feel it the most, it feels like I'm allowing the love. You know, I'm not getting to choose it necessarily. Of course, there's the, you know, it's a verb, you know, you got to do things lovingly and stuff like that. But like when I tap into the frequency, it's like eros, like sexual eros, and tapping into that presence. You know, it's hard to put a word on it or like say that I created it, but it's just like allowing it, you know, because it feels like it's there.
Yeah. It's always. Like anger too. I think anger is a frequency. I think it's like you hear about the God fury and then people that are able to channel that into like gym sessions. Like you get in there and you start listening to Slipknot, you know, like you're channeling.
My fingers into my eyes.
You know, you start feeling this vibration, this frequency that's going to allow you to push that set.
Yeah.
Or push that, you know, get that last rep up. Same thing with anger. You know, that's why, like, I remember, I very vividly remember a football memory where I was like in 6th or 7th grade maybe, and I wasn't doing the best in football. And I remember my mom like coming onto the field and was like, "Get angry. Come on, get angry. Let's go push through this." And I was like, first off, Mom, what are you doing here? Stop.
First off, Sheila, get on the fucking sideline.
Please stop. But then, like, you know, to tap into that, to find something that makes me angry, to channel that fury in order for me to make the best tackle in this moment, right? Like, we don't know what we're doing, but we're being, to your point, conduits for some type of energy. We just call it something.
Right.
You know? And I think the body can hold some of that energy, residual energy of that, sadness.
Body keeps a score.
Yes.
That was hard for my scientific mind to want to grasp as well, even though it's like there's just proof after proof after proof that the body does keep the score. Because you just want to think that we're the mind, the brain, you know? And then you'll see someone have you know, get their body worked on and have a fucking emotional release that they can't explain. Yeah. And it's like, all those videos could be fake, sure. But
you start moving around.
Yeah, man. And it's like, there's something to the body and movement. That's why Tribe's so cool, because it's like embodied arts. To try to even describe what Tribe is difficult, which is, again, I love. I love those things that are hard to really put in a category. It's a yoga studio. It's a breath work. They do cold plunges, saunas. They do fucking men's work. They do they do kickboxing. They do fucking kundalini. You name it, you know. It's really impressive, and you don't see a lot of places like that. And then a lot of times people can take those things far, you know, or too far, or take advantage, you know. And it's like my radar's really high in the spirituality realms, because sometimes I see it get manipulated, you know, or taken out of where I'm comfortable with. Yeah. And I don't feel like they're doing that, you know. It doesn't feel like they're taking advantage. It feels like they don't give me any of them vibes, you know. So
it's like an authentic conversation. It's like an authentic relationship where, you know, they don't want anything from you outside of what you want to get from that place.
Yeah.
You know, they want to give you the experience, but there's nothing additional that they're trying to take away from you.
Right. It's like they got to see outside the cave and now just naturally want to show others that there's something outside of the cave.
Yeah. It's not like a cult.
No.
You know what I mean?
No,
like,
exactly.
You have to drink some fucking lemonade.
And it can get
culty.
culty. Those things can get culty.
Yes, 100%.
Where it's like, you know, we're not a cult, but we are going to fuck everyone's girlfriend, you know, or whatever. It's like, it can get
and then
weird.
mask it as like some tantric, like spiritual experience.
Yeah, I'm doing it for you.
Yeah.
I don't even want to.
I'm
I don't
doing
even
it for
want to
you
fuck your wife.
to learn your fucking, you know, to level you. I'm taking on your karma.
I'm helping you. Yeah, it's like, but and to talk about tapping into the anger, as it's interesting that you remember that memory, and it because anger gets a bad rap, you know, and I think a lot of times because we let anger overtake us, and like there's that, you know, madly in love, like that. I saw a quote one time that's like, I don't want to be madly in love. I want to be sanely in love and grounded in love, you know, because if you get taken by this emotion, it's like a spell. You're under a spell.
You're possessed.
Yeah, possessed. Whether shout out Unk, everything's possession.
Yeah.
But whether you're, you know, fully like blinded by love or blinded by anger, that's not good. At the same time, I think it's important to have that anger to tap into. Like I read this book called Fire in the Belly on being a man, and it's about like there's a difference between being soft and being weak. You know what I mean? Like I think true alphas I don't even like the categories like that, but true people who are alpha don't need to go around explaining that they're alpha. You know, there's like this soft powerfulness to like, there's a difference between not being able to be angry, so you're peaceful, right? And being able to tap into that when you need to and still choosing to be peaceful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a saying I heard, I think, was it Jordan Peterson? Someone said, I don't know, maybe it was Rogan, but it's better to be the warrior in the garden rather than the gardener in the war, right?
Yep, exactly.
Because to your point, like the warrior, a true warrior never has to take out a sword.
Right.
Like he just knows who he is. He's a badass. He knows he's a badass. The guy that's chirping all the time,
having to explain to everyone, he's a badass.
He's the badass. You know, you don't know who I am. You know who I am? Like he's not.
He doesn't.
Warrior.
He doesn't know who he is. That's the thing. He's trying to explain to himself. Those guys who are beating on their chests are trying to prove it to themselves. Yeah. You know?
And another guy that I want to drop here is Jeff Thompson.
Shout out to Jeff Thompson.
Jeff Thompson, he's over in the UK. He's been one of the greatest teachers that I've ever had. And like I've had 2 conversations with him. He's an author. He grew up blue collar, basically wrote his first book as a janitor at a factory. Like he was in the bathroom stalls writing this book on a yellow pad of paper, right? And he won a BAFTA, which is a huge award if you're like a creator. And his story is all about getting into the fire, right? Getting into that burn, like that, being able to get into the anger and not do anything with it, like to be able to feel it, to let it possess you to the max, but still have sovereignty over yourself, to not react.
Yeah.
You know, and he talks about how to expand that bandwidth to do that. I mean, there's times where I lose my shit. I'm not going to lie. Like I'm not, you know, spiritually enlightened.
They say even when a monk stubs his toe, it's motherfucker for a second, you know? And I think the spiritual path is a lot about changing the reaction to the response. Yeah. You know, so the time from, I've noticed for myself, the time from disruption and like dysregulation with my nervous system to baseline, that time shrinks, like the more I grow. I don't know that it'll ever be gone. Like you said, I'm going to lose my temper. It'll happen. Yeah. But I can tell you I notice it more when it happens, you know, and I don't shame myself for it because I notice this is a defense mechanism. This is me trying to protect me.
And I had a great conversation with a female channeler. You know, she channels a council, and she made some really hardcore points for me. It was like, you know, and this realization comes after reading Ram Dass's book, where he talks about how like he like always tried to be the spiritual being. He was trying to always get to heaven, and like very rarely was he being the human, you know? So like we always in the spiritual community want to transcend humanness, but in actuality, and this channeler said, it's like your emotions are divine. Like your emotions that you're experiencing, God wants to have that. Like why else are you here to be a human being? Like it's to have this experience.
Right.
And if you can make it a divine experience, but recognize it for what it is and know the power behind it, the rawness behind it, to control it and not create chaos, like that is divinity.
Right.
You know, to be able to step in that chaos and not react to
not running from it,
to be sovereign and make a choice of like, I'm going to honor this fury that I feel right now, but I'm going to make a choice and not to spread that throughout this world.
Yeah.
You know, that's power. That's true power right there. You know,
it's like loving without grasping.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like one of the highest spiritual passes, like to not run from the emotion. If you're sad, feel sad, right?
That's the key, is to actually feel it.
Actually,
because if you don't feel it, it stores itself.
And comes back with a vengeance.
And it comes back as cancer, right?
We're literally, men hold on to their emotions.
Why do you think we have like prostate cancer so high in men, right?
Yeah. Yeah, literally, we just bottle everything down, and then eventually it just turns into this lead ball.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, why? Like guys with big fucking bellies, like we hold that tension right there. I mean, I'm not like a somatic therapist or anything like that, but there's an association, a correlation to why men with big bellies, like they're so fucking stressed. You know, like it's not beer, dude. I'm telling you, it's like it's like the unreleased like somatic trauma that you have and stress that you're keeping. You know, how are you going to pay the next bill? How are you going to, you know, your son, is he not being the son that you want him to be?
Right.
You know, like all the social
trying
things.
To control it all, not surrendering to it, not allowing the flow. It's like your cortisol is spiked constantly. Yeah. Everyone's in fight or flight. So, of course, that's going to show up in your body. You know, one thing I notice I do is I'll intellectualize as a way to not feel. And I didn't realize for a long time I was doing that. It's like, instead of feeling the thing, I'll hurry up and try to like put this verbal narrative to it, because it'll make me not have to feel it. Now I'm up here.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, like I was doing like IFS therapy, like internal family systems and stuff. And it was difficult for me to even be in tune with my body because I'm so heady, you know, and it's like uncomfortable for me because he would ask me sometimes, he would bring up something and say, where do you feel that in your body? You know? And sometimes my answer would be like, I don't.
Yeah.
And he'd say, that's fine. You know, I would get frustrated. He wouldn't, but it was like, I can't tap into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's something there with the body and the brain, and the idea that, you know, the Cartesian theater, like the idea that we feel like we're behind our eyes, but we're not. We're like the entire body, you know.
We're the entire body.
Yeah, it's big for me because people assume we're here because our eyes focus there, you know. And it's just like, I've done a therapy where it's like, you know, picture your body, picture this, picture that, and then it's like, I bet you when you're picturing your feet, you're picturing them down from where you're at, but they're not.
But then people with near-death experiences, they have 360 panorama view.
Oh, wow,
vision.
right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're, for whatever reason, I can only perceive vision out of these two eyes, but reality is information, all your senses combined plus your sixth sense. So you're receiving data all the time.
Oh, and the senses, there's probably 100, you know?
Yeah.
The magnetic field, the vibrations, the frequencies, the vibe. I mean, you can just feel stuff. You can feel energy. And the thing about the energy stuff, it can get woo-woo, but no one can deny energy's real, right? Everyone that can acknowledge it.
I mean, 100%. I can feel energy when I put my hands together, right? Like, you know, whatever that science is. I can feel energy in a room. Like when you walk into a room and you know that you know, it's either going to be fun or it's going to suck, right? Like I can feel the energy when I sit down to have a hard conversation with somebody. I can feel the energy in my third chakra. I guess that's what you call it. I don't know. When I get when I get pissed off, right? Like that, I can feel the energy there. Like when I take my awareness and I put it on that space, though, it kind of like changes it. Like if I'm in my third energy center, which Joe Dispenza calls it. I like that better than chakra. In my third energy center, like where I feel that tension and that like anger, if I just place my awareness on it, it changes it. It's almost like the observer effect with the double slit. Like
right.
The observer automatically changes shit.
If you haven't looked up the double slit experiment, please, if you do nothing else from this podcast, just look up a layman's terms of what the double slit experiment is. I've never seen a more mind-blowing experiment.
Oh my God, dude.
It changes everything.
It changes your observation of something automatically changes it.
Changes the fundamental reality.
Yes.
It's like, and then they did the one where it's like they did where the experiment happened and it didn't change until it was observed later. They did that too. It's like,
so it's like, what is time?
That's where it gets real freaky.
Like, but that's the fun about having podcasts like this, like talking about like things that you're not allowed to talk about. Like my favorite, like conspiracy theories. You know, like, did we go to the moon? I don't know.
I love that shit.
Like gun to head, I don't know if we went to the moon.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Is space real? I've had like my wildest conversation is with someone who's an out-of-body traveler and states that space is not real. And he was in the aerospace industry as an engineer, having out-of-body experiences. And he's like, I had to quit my job because like I couldn't
Right.
live the lie anymore.
Oh God.
I was like, dude.
And this is the thing. I've never been to space. You haven't. So at the end of the day, you have to take people's word for it.
I don't believe anything. And after listening to like Rogan for all these years and like listening to Danny Jones podcast and all these guys that bring like fucking legitimate authority figures in academia and like in their fields of study onto the show, and they start bringing this evidence, they're like, man, I don't know what reality is.
It gets dark. It gets weird. Everything's propagandized, you know?
Like psyops.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this. I don't know if you haven't seen my Instagram, right? Follow me. T Downes 80.
I was about to say TDOWNES 80.
I will post occasionally these orbs of light that are above my house in the night sky.
Oh yeah, you did the other day, like just casual UAP or something.
I was like, twinkle, twinkle, little UAP. This fucking thing has been following me around for like a year. Like this, I don't know if it's the same thing.
I hope you didn't bring that fucker here.
You're fucked.
Oh God damn it.
But the only other way that I can explain it is this orb of light, and it changes colors, and it's flashing, and it's like pulsating. If you ever follow like Chris Bledsoe, who I've had a conversation with, he wrote a book called UFO of God, and he had a light. You talk about Plato's cave and seeing the fire, like he literally saw the fire, and his story is amazing. And he posts these videos of orbs all the time, and the government like takes special interest in him because I feel like he's connected to something. Now I don't know what that is. It could be reverse engineered shit. I don't know.
Right.
Who knows? But this orb that keeps showing up in my backyard, it could be like over Aberdeen Proving Ground too, right? Because I live probably 20 miles south of that.
Yeah, there's no telling what's going on there.
Right? I don't know what they're testing. But this fucking orb is like up in the sky near that area, and it's like pulsating different light shades, different colors. And I'm just sitting there watching it. And I'm like, I'm telling my wife, I'm like, do you see this? And she's like, it's just one of those drones, baby. The kids are like, now they're so desensitized to this shit. They're like, oh, it's just a drone.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, you know, like the things that were happening over New Jersey for the last year, these drones or whatever. Like, this isn't a drone. This is a fucking orb of light that keeps shifting and pulsating and moving around the sky in different angles. Like, I don't know what it is. And people try to tell me, oh, you know, like channelers and people that have special abilities are like, oh, it's a portal. I'm like, okay.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
The sky's weird. Whatever's going on up there is weird. I've like focused in on a star before, or you know, a star, and I've seen it like do things that aren't a star, right?
Dude, I've made the intention of like to God, to the creator of this reality, like if I'm on my path, like show me something wild. And I was on a run, so I could have been in high alpha state. This fucking star lights up out of nowhere, moves around.
Dude, the moving around is the fucking weird thing. That's what I'm talking about.
Then it disappears. And I'm like, all right, thank you.
And here's the thing. So when I caught one time, and I actually had someone with me, and I said, hey, can you come look at this? Right? And they're looking at it. Obviously, I'm going to sound like a lunatic. Yeah. And I'm like, tell me that thing's not moving though, right? And they were uncomfortable with it. Like they didn't want to keep looking.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get that, because what does that mean? Let's just say we both agree that it's moving. Then what?
Like how does any of this help you live here?
Right.
Like all the conspiracies. What if they are true?
Right.
What if the conspiracies are alternate realities in which you live, but you're only experiencing this reality? Going back to the point of like subjectivism. Like I can't prove what you see is
You can't even prove that I'm real.
Yeah. I don't know.
At the end of the day, everyone besides me, I have no proof that they exist.
Yeah.
I
mean, you could be what is it, an NPCU
NPC?
or NPC, whatever, like a
non-player character.
Yeah, you could be one of those for all.
Yeah, everyone could be an NPC, but you.
Yeah,
we could all just be your imagination, and same for me.
Yeah,
I don't know what red looks like to you.
Absolutely, and then people will say, well, what's the point of being here? I think the point of being here, you've made a choice for whatever reason, and I think the best way to approach it is, how does it make you a better person? Like, how does it make you a better human being? Like, if love is the ultimate frequency, whatever that feels like for you. Don't use words to describe it, but the feeling. If you can increase that feeling in your life and make better choices and help others feel that, I think that's the path.
Right.
If you can make a decision. Like there's this crazy, I heard this like story. It was like this monk who lived in a cave, like left for whatever reason and came back. When he came back, there was demons in it. And
hate when that happens.
Yeah, right. Like there was like these fucking gnarly demons. And at first he wanted to fight them. He's like trying to whip their ass, and they wouldn't leave. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to teach them some spirituality shit. So he tries to teach them meditation. and maybe like one leaves, but the rest of them stay. And then finally, no, sorry, he accepts that they're there, and then more of them leave. And then there's this one badass demon that won't fucking leave. He's like the gnarliest, probably looks like Satan. Whatever Satan looks like to you, this is what this fucking demon looks like. And he's like, he's going to wait him out. He's like, all right, I'm just going to sit here, accept that you're here, and just wait you out. And the fucking guy he doesn't leave. And then finally he's like, he has this realization. He's like, okay, he surrenders to it. He puts his head down so that he can bite his head off or whatever. He surrenders his life to this demon. All fear, like he eliminates all fear and just accepts whatever his fate is. And then the demon leaves.
I knew that fucker was going to leave.
Dude, that's with life.
Yep.
That's with life.
Giving up and surrendering is like the hardest thing.
We're so scared of everything. I mean, you think about it. Like, we're just so scared of death and what lies on the other side of it. And if you were to find out that life just transforms.
Yeah, it's a transition.
Transitions. What fear would you have?
I know. I think a lot of human fears are baseline. It's the mortality. It can manifest in like loss of connection or like what, all these different fears. But at the end of the day, everyone's just terrified of dying, and that's why I like talking about death. I like talking about suicide. I like talking about space. I like talking about these things that are like no-go subjects. The people who won't even bring up unaliving yourself. Right? Not in a way that I'm idolizing it, but to act like we can't, that's a huge discussion.
Everybody's thought about it.
Everyone. Me and my mom had this thing. She's like, I've never thought about it. This is what she said. I'll never forget it. We were in her car, in her Hyundai Santa Fe. We were driving, and she was probably like picking me up from a psych ward or something, But she was saying that, like, she says this to me in one breath. She goes, I would never kill myself. She's like, I don't think about it. I would never do it. I go, well, hold on. How do you know you would never do it? Yeah. Because you thought about it. Even if you thought about it for that 1 second, to never ever thought about. Only thing you've ever known is life. So to the thought of you have a choice at the end of the day. It's powerful.
Well, what if life gets so hard, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you think about people that are in the concentration camps, like Viktor Frankl, and like the things that he saw. Like people wanted death to come.
Yep.
Like there's been times in my life where the modernity has been too much. Mm-hmm. The responsibility of having a family, of being a husband, of 9 to 5, to supporting all of them. Never ending fucking grind.
Never ending.
Like it will never end. And how do you choose to show up?
Right.
And
I think that you just, you curate your tribe the best you can. Mm-hmm. We talked about how, like, there's a, maybe not a battle, but like a tug of war a bit between modernity, like the modern society, versus like indigenous rites of passage and like holding things true to nature. And it's like, while we may not have the power currently to upend society, flip over the monopoly board, within our tribes, within our boardwalk and park place and shit, we can choose to do that. If you have a 13-year-old son, you can take him into the woods for a ritual. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that if more people did that, then eventually the board does get flipped.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, we automatically change our environments just with the frequency that you're vibrating out. Like our observation, our awareness automatically does that. So if you're coming from a different frequency, and guys are listening to this, and girls are listening to this, people are listening to this, and they're like, "This motherfucker's crazy. What are you talking about? Vibration? That seems very spiritual to me." It's science, and I hate to tell you, it's proven. And there's this guy. His name is Dr. David Hawkins. He's since passed away, but he was an MD and a PhD. And he actually calculated the levels of consciousness and frequencies through muscle testing. And he was able to, the highest level of consciousness is Jesus or whatever, Buddha, and then all the way down to like fear and death and all of that. And so if you are vibrating at, let's say, love, which is unconditional love, which is like 760 or whatever.
Hertz.
Yeah. Or I don't know if it's hertz. Just 760. Okay. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
You're automatically changing the things in your field at that level. And if you look at entrainment, which is in quantum physics or quantum mechanics, like a grandfather clock, right? You have 100 of them in here. They all start to sync up together. Women with their menstrual cycles.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
They all start to couple and they start to sync together.
That's crazy.
But it's based upon the strongest. Whoever is the most strongest female, however you want to do it, has that pull, and everybody starts to align to that. And so if you have a higher frequency and you walk into a room and you're radiating that, people will start to couple to that frequency. And it's not something that's woohoo. It's fucking science.
Yeah.
It's quantum. And you can do the same thing with manifestation. Like you can, like in visualization, the Heart Math Institute has a study out for entrepreneurs. You need to go to their website and check it out. But it's like a 30-page paper from an actual academic professor. Talks about how you can use passionate attention and passionate intention to couple up to a future probability, and then use your intuition to pick up on the clues on how to get there.
I like that. That's worded really nice. So you're passionate intention,
which is here. You have to feel it. Intention, right? With your passionate attention, which is locking up to that whatever it is that you're trying to create and visualizing all the details in it. You know,
then picking up that,
and then picking up the intuition of hints.
I like that it's multifaceted there.
Yep.
It's not just one. It's like, because that makes sense. Because you can say one of them, and it's like, well, how, right?
Yep.
But if you line those two things up, and then also are tuned in enough.
But you're picking up on your intuition.
Right.
You're allowing, like, if you clear out your nervous system of all that trauma, if you regulate your nervous system is what? Your heart and your brain and your gut are essentially aligning and becoming I don't want to say incoherent. They're becoming coherent enough to where now you're picking up on clues in your reality to take inspired action.
Right.
And then, I don't know why I got to call you, Justin, but I got to call you about something.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just thinking about you, dude. Like, yeah, there's this thing going on across town. Let's go check it out.
Right.
You know, and then you go and you meet somebody else and they're like, hey, Trey, you do a podcast. Dude, I got this great guest, whatever. And then that podcast episode goes viral. Like,
yeah. And it's like the intuition is, we're constantly getting those signals, it's just, are we tuned into them? Right, because if your system isn't healed, or you're not in a place where your parents, you know, if you're in
a sympathetic,
if
state,
you're
right, if you're trying to control things,
mm-hmm.
you're scared, you're in fear.
Right, yep.
This is never going to happen. That's why, like, a lot of manifestors, and I fucking hate talking about manifestation because it just seems so woohoo, right? Like, that's the conditioning that I have. Like, it's out of fear of it's never going to happen, right? You're trying to control future states of probability by manifesting the thing. Right. I look at this like heart-centered, attentional attention, or passionate attention, passionate intention, using your intuition as like a treasure map.
Right.
Like, you're actually connecting with something and you're getting the clues on how to get there. It's not out of fear. It's like, okay, like, I align with that. That is part of my purpose in being here. So how do I connect with it, and how do I find the way to it? You know, like, you're co-creating with the universe to get this goal. It isn't like, oh man, I got to have 1 million subscribers. I got to put it on my vision board, and I got to, you know, it's just
not you against the universe.
Yes, no, it's not like I am single-handedly trying to create this fucking thing, which I do think we can do, because I think our will is that powerful.
Right.
But it takes a long fucking time to do because we're in this reality and it's so dense. But I think this method, to me, aligns more with what you're truly here to do. And
and you can say, like, just follow your intuition, but to where, right? So you almost need that. Where's your attention? What's your intention?
Yeah.
You need those, right? As like, okay, that's the starting point. This is where we know where we're coming from. Because if you're just following intuition, that's good still.
Yeah.
But where are you headed?
But at the deeper level, like, why do you want that thing? You know?
Right. You need to know,
like, why do you want 1 million subscribers? Why do you want 1 million, you know, whatever, membership, blah, blah, blah. It comes down to, like, people will say, well, I want people to like my content so I can be a full-time YouTuber. Well, why do you want to be a full-time YouTuber? Oh, because I want more freedom. Well, why do you want more freedom? Because I feel like a fucking prisoner. Well, why do you feel like a prisoner? Because I don't have any choice. It always comes down to, like, ultimately fear of not being in control.
Right.
And then all you have to do really is change your perspective on that. Like, how do you make the decision to show up in each moment? Like Viktor Frankl, like, he was in a prison, he was in a concentration camp in Nazi Germany, but he chose in each moment to show up as love, right? And so he could withstand any fucking horrendous condition, external condition, because he made that choice. And that's true freedom, because they can't take that away from you.
No one can take it.
Nobody can take that away from you.
That's powerful. Man's search for meaning.
Yes.
Yeah, Viktor. I mean, you want to put things to the test. that's when, you know, because sometimes people will say like when it's interesting to me when someone like survives a car accident, right? And they'll be like, you know, thank God or shout out to a God. And it's like, well, what about those people in the concentration camps? You know, this is the same God who's put them there. And at the end of the day, to realize that you still have a freedom, even in that, even through being tortured and genocided, that you have the freedom to forgive or to choose love or to see the sunshine. Yeah.
Powerful, dude. I mean, that's changed my whole perspective on life just after reading that book. Like I have the choice to either be a victim or the hero.
Right.
And
no matter what.
The hero may fucking lose. Right. The hero doesn't mean that he gets the girl at the end and he doesn't get the treasure and all the things. That's not what the true hero is, showing up in this moment and allowing whatever the world's going to give you to fucking give it to you.
Getting to show up in each moment.
It's putting your head down for the demon to take.
That's powerful, man. It's like, and I'm sure he was up for days just looking at the demon, you know, not like turning his fucking sight away from him because he's worried. But then when you go, hey, I'm safe. Yeah. At the end of the day, no matter what, I'm loved and I am safe. Everything else is a lie. Yeah. Sometimes I tell myself that, right? Everything besides that I'm loved and safe is a lie.
Wow.
Thanks for coming, man.
Dude, this has been awesome.
I appreciate you taking the time, man. Check out Your Superior Self, Trey's podcast. Check out T Downes 80.
Yep. That's my football number. Yeah.
Okay.
So when my mom's yelling at me on the sideline, I get angry.
Yeah, she's rolling on the field. Get angry. Yeah, man. I'm glad that the universe put each other in our paths, you know?
Yeah, dude. You know, just taking the mask off. Like, I think your work here, I don't know. I've seen some of the conversations you've been having.
They're all over the place. Yeah.
They're wild.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
They're weird.
Yeah.
Not as weird maybe as this conversation.
Well, it's a different kind of weird, yeah.
Right? I just appreciate your open-mindedness to having this conversation on your platform.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not trying to evangelize anything that I'm doing at all.
Yeah.
I think I just want to spark curiosity in others. So when I'm at the soccer game on the weekends with fellow dads, like they feel a little bit more comfortable in discussing UFOs.
Yeah, or love.
Or love.
Yeah. And it's a good thing Mike wasn't here because he would just call us gay the whole time. Mike's still got a big inhibitor in him where he's just like, what do you mean hug? What do you know?
Yeah.
So we need to get him into fucking men's work. But yeah, man, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I love you, man.
I love you too, buddy.
If this doesn't work, I'll kill myself. Damn.